Yeah. 2. Yeah. Aye. I'm jacking the beat, you calling the cops. The yapping is cheap, I call you the ops. The rapping is heating, it's all cause of pop. You get a leak for the ball, get a drop. Feel like I'm wrong when I double it back, cause I'm making it harder to catch that. But I covered the ticket, I call you to visit. You tipping and hit up the cash app. Baby girl, been around for it, yeah. In the old days, I was stuck in old ways. Never really trying to flip the old page. Young man tripping at an old age. Thinking I was flicking, had a low wage. Led the bro days, then a slow praise. Thinking it'd be different, it would gon' change, then it really didn't. It's a cold game, yeah. Ay, all I really wanted was the money in the pocket. Got over money, but the money ain't the topic. Like Bill Doe and the money gotta stop it. Kid need food and the whip need juice. I'ma get these views when work hard, play hard, homeboy, everybody ain't calling out. Got a mouthpiece from the southeast, if you want scrap, stall him out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then I feel good, man, I'm balling out. I'm a rich man with a rich fam, Christ bars got me out of mama house. And I bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks. Big God, big grace. Big God, big grace. Big God, big grace. Big God, big grace. Bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks. Bless God, give thanks. Big God, big grace.
What's good, baby? It's your partner looking old, so fresh, cold, clean. You see that thing, baby. Now take that damn picture, guys, and welcome to another edition of the Countermove podcast, guys, where we look at life, lean in, reason together, and then prescribe some solutions. So welcome again to another edition of the Countermove podcast. Now, I was gonna say this up front. If you are looking for a debate type of format or show, do me a huge favor. There's hit that X at the top left, right, front, back, side, whatever it is, and get to stepping. But if you're looking for some wisdom, you're in the right place, guys. Again, welcome, guys. And guys, today's topic, man, is a topic that has been in the news for a long period of time, guys. We're talking about this debt ceiling, inflation rate, as well as the 14th Amendment, guys. And it's been very interesting with these three topics. Really, what's been in the lion's share of the news has been the debt ceiling and the 14th Amendment. That has been the lion's share of the news, guys. But there are also some news that came out kind of in the cut concerning the inflationary rate, guys. And so we're going to look at all three of these things real quickly, guys. But first and foremost, guys, we're going to focus on this debt ceiling situation, guys. A lot of people don't know what this is. Has there been any countries at all that have actually defaulted on the debt? What is the debt ceiling? Things of that nature. So we're going to look at that, right? And then we're going to walk through this whole thing, guys. And I wanted to bring in a good friend of mine, my man PBD, Patrick Bet David. He actually did a nice synopsis of this debt ceiling situation, guys. Real quickly, good balance, guys. And let's lean in and reason together and see what's going on with this, guys. Here we go. Let's go.
Will the U.S. government, for the first time ever, default on our debt payments that we have? And if we do, what does this really look like? In the last 100 years, 6 countries have defaulted on their debt. Will we really go through it as America, the greatest nation in the world? How did we get here in the first place? Why are Republicans and Democrats fighting? Is this really a leverage game that the Republican controls the House and these guys want to raise the debt limit? And they're saying, well, before you lower your expenditure, we're not going to raise it. They're like, no, we want all of it and then some. So then President Trump in the town hall meeting says, let them default. Because they're bullying you. So we're going to see if McCarthy's going to hold ground and say, nope, we're not doing this. Janet Yellen said we could be running out of money as early as June, and that scared the crap out of a lot of people in the market. So there's a lot of things going on. We're going to dive into this to really see, is U.S. going to default or not? So during chaotic, uncertain times.
So guys, up front, guys, come back to me real quickly. Up front, guys, you see PBD actually asked some really good questions concerning this, guys. And he actually brought in a lot of different points that have been talked about in the news, guys. So I wanted you guys to see exactly what that is. Again, let's go back to PBD and let's dive into this thing. Here we go. Here we go.
/valuetainment, or you click on a link below, you get 10% off for your first month. So if you get value from this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it. First thing we need to all know about is the fact that the government has access to, tools that we don't have. You and I don't have. They can manipulate money in ways you and I cannot do. But before
key thing he said there was manipulate money. Manipulate. Okay. Again, terms and definitions. Listen very closely.
we get into the levels of manipulation they can do, let's kind of figure out how the government gets money in the first place. There's two ways they get money. One is either through taxes, the other one is through bonds. So taxes is taxes, corporate, individual, any other way that they get their money. The other one is by you and I buying bonds from them. Treasury bills, T-bonds, short-term, mid-term, long-term. That is one way that they get money from the public.
That's correct.
We'll talk a little more about the treasuries later on, but let's first look at the history of debt ceiling in America. So the power to issue money is specifically granted to the U.S. Congress by the Constitution. The debt ceiling was established by the Second Liberty Bond Act of 1917. It was not created as a restriction on the federal government's ability to borrow it. It was created to simplify the process and provide the U.S. Treasury with more flexibility in managing the country's debt. So pre-1917, the government had to get each line of debt that they wanted to get approved. It was one by one, and like, listen, this is taking too much time. Can we kind of speed up the process instead of having to do this? And then boom, World War I happens. That was a perfect excuse for them to say, why don't we do it through a debt ceiling that we don't have to get approval every time? Obviously, the government likes that because they need.
What he's describing right now is what he hinted at up front. Is the government has tools at its disposal to manipulate. Okay, again, terms and definitions, guys. This is good. Let's keep going.
They need less approvals. So here's what's crazy about it. It went as a way to improve and speed up the process and streamline it to now being politicized, and they're using it as a weapon and a point of leverage against each other, which is causing the mayhem that we have today. And it's causing Congress to be divided. So now Congress has raised, extended, or revised the debt ceiling nearly 100 times since it was established. Even in 1939 and 1941, Congress established the first limits that allowed the U.S. Treasury the ability to issue new debt as long as the total amount outstanding remained under a specified ceiling. Now, if I was to ask you, since 1960, we've raised, revised, extended the debt limit nearly 78 times, right? How many times do you think it was under a Republican president? How many times do you think it was under a Democratic president?
Good question.
Here's the numbers. 49 times it was under a Republican president. 29 times was under Democratic president. Why? Because most of the time when the president is president, the House is owned by the opposite side.
Interesting.
So if Republican president, Dems control the House. If the Democratic president, Republicans own the House. So you see.
Great perspective. I like that balanced view. Let's keep going, guys. This is really good. Let's keep going.
How this thing kind of works out. So meaning, even though it's a Republican president, typically the left owns the House. They're the ones that are raising the debt limit. But listen, both sides do it regularly because they want to spend more money. The chance of getting these guys to want to say, hey, you got to spend less. Good luck getting these guys to want to spend less on either side of the aisle. So now, last 100 years, let's look at how many governments have actually defaulted. Okay, first one, Germany, 1932, 1948, caused by the inability to repay the reparations imposed after World War I. The default and subsequent.
Did y'all see that with reparations? I'm not going nowhere else, but I want y'all to the inability to repay the reparations because of the World War. Man, let's keep going. This is good.
Economic instability contributed to the rise of the Nazi Party. This is Germany, number one. Number two, Argentina, 1951, 1982, 2001, 2014, 2020. It's fair to say Argentina is the GOAT, the dynasty of defaulting on their government's debt. No one's done a better job defaulting on the debt than Argentina. This is not a good area to be the best one in. Due to unsustainable fiscal policies, economic crisis, and volatile commodity prices, the defaults have resulted in severe economic recessions, high inflation, and political stability. Number three, Russia, 1998, caused by a collapse in confidence in the Russian government's ability to repay its debt, leading to a default. This led to a sharp devaluation of the ruble, a severe economic contraction, and political upheaval. Four, Greece, 2012, largest sovereign default in history. Causes included structural weaknesses in the Greek economy, misreported government financial data, and the global financial crisis, of 2008. This crisis resulted in severe austerity measures, high unemployment, a significant contraction in the Greek economy, and a European sovereign debt crisis. Number 5, Venezuela, 2017. The Venezuelan debt crisis was a result of a drop in oil prices, economic mismanagement, and political instability. The country has since experienced hyperinflation, severe shortages of basic goods, and a humanitarian crisis. Number 6, Lebanon, 2020. Caused by a banking crisis, political instability, and civil unrest resulted in severe economic contraction, hyperinflation, and a humanitarian crisis. So if we look at all the 6 and see what things they have in common, this is what you would find. Economic mismanagement, political instability, external shocks, and unsustainable debt levels. So the question becomes,
listen to this question.
Since 1776, we've never once defaulted. Will this be the first time we do? No one knows. We'll find out.
Well, here's the thing. You just saw what he said, those 3 areas of I guess the fruits of debt defaults. He listed those 3 things there. Those seem very oddly similar to what's going on right now. Again, terms and definitions. Okay, let's keep, man, this is, man, he teaching y'all a master class, man. This is so good. Come on, PBD, take us home. Come on.
Find out in the next 4 to 8 weeks. So the main question becomes, what's so different about America versus Germany, Argentina, Russia, Greece, Venezuela, Lebanon? How different are we? There's a lot of people that are saying that's not going to happen in our lifetime, but why not? What if it does? Let's take a look at this to see how different U.S. is than these 6 countries.
Man, this is good. Come on.
First, U.S. Treasuries are considered the safest and most liquid assets in the world.
That's correct.
It's seen as pristine collateral or tier 1 asset, even though some people recently, Basel III is now looking at gold as being a pristine collateral, but still U.S. Treasury is all the way at the top. They play a crucial role as a collateral in global financial markets, as they're often used to secure loans, margin accounts, and other financial transactions.
That's correct.
So let's look at what causes U.S. Treasuries to be pristine collateral or safe.
Good question.
Number 1, low credit risk. The U.S. Treasuries are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Number 2, high liquidity. U.S. Treasuries are highly liquid due to their deep and well-established secondary market. This allows market participants to buy and sell those with ease, making them an ideal form of collateral. 3, price stability. U.S. Treasuries have relatively stable prices compared to other assets like stocks and commodities. The price stability is advantageous for financial institutions as it reduces the risk of collateral value fluctuations. Why does fluctuations matter? Because fluctuations in collateral value leads to margin calls. You don't want to have margin calls.
That's right.
4, global acceptance. The U.S. Treasuries are widely accepted and used as collateral worldwide, providing ease of use for international transactions. And last but not least, 5, repo and reverse repo market. The repurchase agreement market and reverse repo market is a critical part of the short-term funding and money markets. They facilitate the flow of cash and securities between financial institutions, central banks, and other market participants. So again, this is what leads to the whole quantitative easing or quantitative tightening market. Easing, if they want to, through the Fed. Let's put more money into the market by buying bonds from banks, right? So that money goes in, the banks get more money, hoping that the banks start lending money to people, and boom, the economy goes up, right? Small business owners, all this stuff. Quantitative tightening, which like, listen, we got a little bit too much money under, let's take money off the table to tighten the market, to tighten loans, and to reduce inflation. Those are 2 different ways they can do. But regardless, this causes U.S. Treasuries to be very safe investment. Why many don't think default will actually happen. So now let's actually go there and say, let's just say we do default. What happens to America? Here's 8 things that happen. Number 1, global financial crisis. A default would cause severe disruptions in the global financial markets as U.S. Treasuries are used as the benchmark for other debt securities and as collateral in numerous transactions. This could lead to a liquidity crisis, credit crunch, and increased market volatility. Number 2, economic chaos. Financial markets would be destabilized and flow of credit would be constrained. Number 3, currency devaluation. The U.S. dollar might lose its status as a world reserve currency, leading to a depreciation of the currency and increased inflationary pressures. Number 4, geopolitical implications. A U.S. default could diminish the country's global influence and potentially alter the balance of power in the international financial system. Number 5, loss of confidence. confidence. A U.S. default would erode global confidence in the country's ability to honor its obligations, potentially leading to a decline in demand for U.S. treasuries and a rise in borrowing costs for the U.S. government. 6, government shutdown. Without the ability to borrow, the government would have to cut spending drastically. This could lead to government shutdowns, layoffs of federal employees, and cuts on services, affecting everything from Social Security payments to military spending. 7, legal and constitutional crisis. The 14th Amendment you keep hearing about to the Constitution states that the validity of the public debt shall not be questioned, so a debt default could potentially trigger a constitutional crisis. And last but not least, number 8, impact on credit rating. The U.S. could lose its AAA rating status, leading to even higher borrowing costs in the future and further damaging the country's fiscal situation. So in other words, this is catastrophic if that were to happen. So the left and the right needs to know that. That's why they're both banking on one's going to cave and they're going to finally say, here's the limit, do what you got to do, just don't spend this much. They're going to figure out a way to negotiate. Hopefully they will. Neither one of them. One's going to say, well, if the default is going to be on you, Congress, McCarthy, you're going to have to live with this and your legacy. And Congress is going to say, hey, Biden, forget about, me as a Speaker of the House. You're the president. Everyone's going to say the first default happened under a Biden administration. Nobody 50 years from now is going to know who the Congress was. They're going to know who the president was. Remember how early?
So that right there, guys. I wanted you guys to hear that. Patrick David, I call him PBD, my dude, my man's in them. He did a really good job, man, at unpacking this whole debt ceiling situation. Okay, did a phenomenal job unpacking that. He gave you a lot of history, which was great, and I hope you guys will really pay attention to what he actually said, because we're going to come back to some of that. All right, guys. Now, he mentioned also in his breakdown, his dissertation, about the 14th Amendment. There's been a lot of jargon concerning this amendment in the Constitution. So, but guys, let's go ahead and get some information of what that is and why President Biden was even bringing this up, and if it makes any sense for him to do it, if he even has the authority to do this. All right, guys. So there's arguments on both sides, right? So let's see exactly what's going on. Let's go to our good pals from the Wall Street Journal, and they're going to talk about a brief section on the 14th Amendment, and then we'll bring in the other side of the argument as well, also to give their perspective on this. So here we go. Here's the first side of it. Here we go.
The third and most likely option.
You could call it the most likely option, but I'd rather call it the least unlikely option.
Okay, the least unlikely option would be to use the 14th Amendment.
All right.
Article 1 of the Constitution says Congress has the power to pay the debts of the U.S. But the 14th Amendment says the validity of the public debt shall not be questioned, which could be interpreted to mean the debt limit itself is unconstitutional.
Now, notice how they jump from one section to another section. I wanted you guys to see this because the other side is going to focus on those sections, okay? Right? Notice what they did, but let's keep going.
You know what? We can issue whatever debt we want. We're not going to invent some brand new coin. We're not going to invent some brand new type of debt. We're just going to go ahead and continue to issue debt.
This is something the White House is really looking into.
Listen.
I've been considering the 14th Amendment. The problem is it would have to be litigated.
If you did invoke the 14th Amendment and financial markets thought you had a good enough chance of prevailing, they would continue to lend you money. And so you'd be buying yourself time. It might be that the courts supported the theory of the 14th Amendment. The problem is you may not get that outcome. You may get the opposite. And then you're back to the drawing board.
That's correct.
With having created a bunch of chaos.
But even if the 14th Amendment isn't invoked now, it might be for future debt limit battles.
Listen to this.
I'll be very blunt with you. When we get by this, I'm thinking about taking a look at months down the road as to see what the court would say about whether or not it does work.
That is a big statement he just said. So you heard, come on back to your partner real fast. You heard President Biden say this here. He said that his concern about using the 14th Amendment currently now is the litigation process. It will slow things down, and they have a deadline of, I think it's June the 1st. I believe they have a deadline that they have to meet, right? So what he's saying is they don't have enough time to do that because the litigation would actually tie things up. But he then turned around and said, also what I want to do is I'm looking at it after this, if I can use it after this. After what? After they get past this debt ceiling situation. So he's talking about using He's talking about using the 14th Amendment to bypass the Congress, where the Constitution says plainly, and you're going to see in a second, that the power of the purse is with Congress. All right? Here is the constitutional crisis that Patrick was actually talking about in this brilliant breakdown. Okay? Here's what's going on. Let's go back to this real fast.
Also, one path House Democrats, not the White House, could take is something called a discharge petition.
So we're not going after that, guys. I want to stay on the 14th Amendment, guys. Listen to this. Here we go. Let's go to the other side of this, right? I call him the great one, Mark Levin, a good friend of mine as well. Also, he breaks it down. He's one of the most brilliant minds, in my opinion, when it comes to the Constitution. And he's a former chief of staff under former Attorney General, I think Ed Meese was under the Reagan administration. So he's a constitutional conservative. So that's what he says he is. And he's really brilliant at it. All right, guys, let's see how he breaks this thing down as a counter argument to what President Biden was saying concerning using the 14th Amendment now and after we get past this debt ceiling situation. Listen to his breakdown. All right, here we go.
The big lie this week is over the federal debt and whether we're going to default. And we're getting an incredible amount of demagogic propaganda from the White House, from the president and his press secretary, as well as the Democrats. And I want to break this down for you because it will determine the state of our economy in the weeks, months, and the years ahead.
Okay.
First of all, we need to look at the Constitution. And if I don't do it with you, nobody will. So let's take a look.
Okay.
Who's responsible for spending and borrowing?
Good question. That's called the power of the purse. Here we go.
Raising taxes. Is it the president? Obviously not. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the Constitution. Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. So it's the first part of that. It is not a suggestion. It is not ambiguous.
That's right.
This is a core power that the legislature has.
Yes.
And when you look at history, when you go back to Britain and look at the Parliament with the King, this was something that the framers of your Constitution looked at, and they wanted this power not to be with a king. That is, not to be with this presidency that they've created or this executive branch. They're supposed to execute the laws passed by Congress.
Yes.
They wanted to give this power, and they did, to Congress. Even more specifically, they wanted to give it to the people who were directly elected in Congress.
Yeah.
The Senate at the time was chosen by the state legislatures.
Okay.
The House was chosen by the people.
Yes, they were.
So we, the people, have some say-so over the finances of our country.
So what he's saying is how the framers positioned the House, right, who was a part of the legislature, they have the power of the purse, and the reason why is most of all of America is mostly represented within the House because of the sheer number of representatives. What just happened? If that makes some sense, guys. All right. So let's go back here. I think I pressed something. It's all good. Here we go. Let's go back to it. Let's see what it says.
The House was chosen by the people.
That's right.
So we, the people, have some say-so over the finances of our country.
That's correct.
Do you feel that way today, by the way? So this is explicit. This is unequivocal.
Listen.
We don't need to read between the lines.
Yes.
It's not next to the abortion clause, of which there's none, of course. This is a primary core duty of the Congress and specifically the House of Representatives.
That's correct.
Now we look at one of the duties of the executive branch under Article 2.
Let's go to executive branch.
Article 2, Section 3. This part, he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, meaning
He said he. That means the president alone. The president is the executive branch. He alone is the executive branch. Let's keep going.
President. The faithful execution of the laws passed by Congress. He took an oath during his inauguration, Biden did, to uphold the laws, even if you disagree with the laws.
That's correct.
But Biden doesn't comprehend this, or he doesn't care. He violates our immigration laws willy-nilly. He violates Title IX willy-nilly. He violates the spending clause willy-nilly when it comes to forgiving $1 trillion in student loans. He thinks he owns the place.
Okay.
He thinks he can do whatever he wants, and so does his party. That's why his party wants to stuff the Supreme Court with more leftists in there so they can do whatever they want to do. That's why his party wants to eliminate the filibuster rule, so if they have a majority of one, they can ram through whatever law they want. That's why his party wants to add Puerto Rico and D.C. as states so they can add 4 more Democrats, and that's why his party wants to change the election laws so they never lose.
I think it's safe to say that Mark Levin is a conservative. It's safe to say, but let's keep going, guys.
But even that's not good enough. So, again, Article 2, Section 3, he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed.
That's correct.
So when you put that section together, as the framers did, with Article 1, who's responsible for laying taxes, collecting taxes, spending and borrowing? Congress.
Yes, Congress.
It's the job of the President of the United States to protect Congress's role.
Wow.
Now let's look at the 14th Amendment, Mark. What does that have to do?
And protect me, because as you read in the Constitution, it was talking about the president and the laws, right? Right. So that's what he's actually saying. Let's keep going.
Anything. Exactly. Nothing. And yet Joe Biden and his advisors, some of these loony law professors who claim what the Constitution says when they despise it, and I would include among them, in my personal opinion, Lawrence Tribe, they say Section 4 of the 14th Amendment, which was ratified on July 9th, 1868, that the people who ratified that and the people who drafted it intended for the President of the United States to have the power to go around Congress's core function under Article 1. And if he wants to spend, and if he wants to borrow, and if he wants to tax, he's free to do so. Why? Well, here's their argument. It's so preposterous.
Listen to this.
And yet there it is floating around in the ether.
Listen.
Section 4 of the 14th Amendment. The validity of the public debt of the United States, comma, authorized by law, comma, including debts incurred for payments of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion shall not be questioned. But neither shall the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. So what was the point of this section? To clean up the finances of the United States of America and determine, as a general matter, who would be paid and who wouldn't be paid after and as a result of the Civil War. It has nothing to do with the full faith and credit of the United States today. In other words, what they're saying is, look, as a federal government, as a union now, these are the debts we're going to pay in services to suppressing the Confederacy. But we're not going to pay anything, not one plug nickel, in services in support of the Confederacy. That's what it says.
Exactly what it says.
And so Joe Biden, being the constitutional expert that he is, and Lawrence Tribe, in my humble opinion, being more wrong than he is ever right about the Constitution. This is the problem with activists who take a hold of our document. Oh, wow. Well, look what I found here in Section 4. So Joe Biden can issue federal bonds, Treasury bonds on his own. And go around the House and the Congress generally. And he can start paying off the debt. He can start doing all kinds of things. Now, this is the Democrat Party's dream.
Listen.
This is their dream. They talk about democracy. They hate democracy, unless, of course, it supports them. They only support elections when they win. They've built this permanent edifice, this massive federal government that really is their federal government. They want to pack the courts so they never lose court decisions. Just think about this. The power that they want to give Joe Biden, they would deny it to Donald Trump in 2 seconds, or Ron DeSantis in 2 seconds. But look at the power. And Biden's actively thinking about this. Do you know what the answer to this is? To negotiate with the Republicans in the House, which he really doesn't want to do. So far, in 2023, as of April, the federal government has had income from you of $2.69 trillion. But it has spent so far in that same period $3.61 trillion. That's the problem. In 2023, the national debt.
So we are in expenses paying more out than the revenue that we're bringing in. That's extremely unhealthy. Extremely unhealthy. Let's keep going.
Up to now, April, is $31.46 trillion.
Yeah.
Trillion dollars.
Yeah.
In 2022, the federal government collected a total of $4.9 trillion.
Okay.
But the federal government spent a total of $6.27 trillion.
That's crazy town. That's crazy town.
Under Joe Biden. That's a $1.38 trillion debt. $1.38 trillion added to the debt.
Jesus.
Between 2021 and 2031, a 10-year period, Biden will increase the debt over 10 years by $6 trillion, more than projected before he came into office. From 2024 to 2033, Biden's borrowing causes interest costs to increase to a stunning $10.2 trillion.
Wow.
Just interest over 10 years.
Jesus.
Biden increases the public debt in 2023 to 2033, 10 years, from $32.7 trillion to $50.7 trillion.
Ooh.
That's in 10 years.
Ooh.
Now think about that. Now Biden goes out there and says, as does his spokesperson, that he cut the federal deficit by 1.7.
So I want to stay focused on that, guys. That I like the way Mark broke that down from a constitutional standpoint. The power of the purse is with Congress, with really the House, right? Because the House represents the most of the totality of the nation. That is what the framers actually wanted, right? Because remember, they're writing it in that time frame, right? Right. Then, when it came to it enforcing the laws, right, that was in the office of the president. The president himself is the executive branch. The reason why the power of the purse was given to the House is because it represented the U.S. more than just one office, which is really in one person, right? And so he actually read the 14th Amendment, and it was very clear what it actually stated, right? I don't see how, in my opinion, but then you have President Biden saying that he's looking to really invoke the 14th Amendment to just go around the Congress. But there was insurrections up in there and that language as well. And I mean, the language that was used that gives the president this authority to do this is not happening now. So I'm trying to understand where the President Biden's side of the argument is getting this perspective, if that makes some sense, guys. But that was a great breakdown of the roles of the House and the executive branch. Great breakdown, guys. Now, we're almost done, guys. And thanks so much for sticking with your partner. Something else came out, guys. So that's the debt ceiling situation and the 14th Amendment. But there was something that came out on the cuff as well, guys, right? That people are not talking about. Look at this. Did the government change the calculations for the inflation rate? That's a big time question, guys. Well, I have to go back to our mans in them. Patrick Bet-David, PBD. Listen to this. Look at this. Did the federal government, did they change or manipulate the calculations for the inflation rate? Let's look at this real fast and see what actually happened. Here we go.
So a lot of people are concerned, confused, and wondering what the hell is going on with inflation because they're saying inflation is going lower, but just in Q1, they announced 270,000 job cuts by U.S. employers, up 396% above last year. Same time, 5 times more. The last time we had something like this, if you take out COVID, was 2009. Yet people are starting to realize just this year, 2 or 3 months ago, they changed something in the Bureau of Labor Statistics on the way they measure inflation, and people are starting to realize why they did it, to not get people to be concerned. Wait till you see some of this data in today's episode.
What PBD just said, guys, that is earth shaking what he just said, guys. That is earth shaking what he just said. That is earth shaking what he just said, guys. Here we go. Let's go back to him, guys, and see what's going on. And now, changing the government manipulating numbers to change stuff is nothing new. Got to be honest, nothing new. I'm focused on the intention of why they do it, right? So let's see why they do it. Again, this is nothing new. It's done often, no matter the administration, whether it is Republican or Democrat. I'm looking to see why they're doing it. Let's dive into this thing. Here we go.
Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. So they're telling us inflation today is 6.5%, give or take. Yeah, inflation's fine at 6.5%. It's not really as bad as you think it is. And a lot of people are confused saying, how is that even possible? Because chicken's up 10.5%, wow. Butter is up 26%, wow. Milk is up 50%, eggs 170% in certain markets, coffee 13%, baby food 10%, rice and pasta 15%, bread 15%. How is it possible if all of these things are up the way they are for you to say inflation is only up 6.5%? Yet if you go to the official versus the shadow stats of how we used to measure inflation, you will notice if you look at the blue versus the red shows that inflation is only 6.5%. But blue, the top, shows we're somewhere between 13 to 14% inflation. But this isn't the only thing that you have to see what happened. Just this year, if you go on the BLS website, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, they announced something very quietly. I don't know if you heard about it or not. Matter of fact, I'd love to know if you heard about it. If you did, comment below. It said beginning with the January 2023 index scheduled for publication on February 14, 2023, BLS plans to update the spending weights in the calculation of the CPI every year instead of every 2 years. Wow. So you may say, I don't get it. What's the big deal with that? Let me explain to you what the big deal is. Just kind of see the optics. If you look at the historical rates, we're just going to go back 5 years. Do you see that? How it goes January, February, March, all the way down to December and the years. So the old way of measuring inflation, let's just look at February of 2023. It says it's 6%, right? So if we do the old way of how much inflation is higher, you would measure it from 6% to February of 2021. And they would have to say inflation is up 4.3% than what it was 2 years ago. Versus the new way of measuring it, they have to go from February, which is 6%, to last year, which was 7.9%, and they get to say the magical words. Look at our policies. Inflation is down 1.9%. And you and I sit there on TV and we hear a president say this, and you say, I don't understand how. How can you say something like this? Well, it is because of our phenomenal policies. Inflation is down. And we have to say, all right, I'm just not feeling it. Maybe it's me. Maybe others are not feeling it. And you start thinking like you're being maybe gaslighted, or you're the dummy. You're not the dummy. You're being gaslighted because they changed the way they measured certain data. So somebody may say, who's this affecting? I mean, again, the person that's making money, they're probably.
Did you hear what he just said? Oh, man, this is good. Let's keep going.
Not feeling this, but the person, the low and middle income family, they're feeling this the most. Let me show you a couple other charts here to look at. So here's a chart of how much food prices increase every year since 1990. If you look at this, what year is the highest prices increasing? This year. And it's not a little bit, it's astronomical compared to any other year in the last 33 years. If you go to shelter, look how much we're in shelter. It's 7.9%. The average person cannot afford to have 7.9% of their shelter costs going up. Transportation, 14.6%. Again, 33 years. Even if you look at some of the things, the behavior of what you and I are doing, these things increasing, beef prices are going up. Most Americans, we love beef. We love our burger, we love our steak, we love all of that. But beef prices are going so high that Americans are saying we can't afford to buy beef anymore. We're starting to eat more chicken than we ate beef. Look at this chart here on what we would consume from 1965 till today. Beef has gone down because prices of beef have gone up. But look at chicken. Chicken's gone up. Turkey is flat. Pork is flat. This is causing you and I to change our consumption behavior.
Yes. We've now had to change our behaviors now. Listen, man, this is good.
This is causing people right now in the tech industry to say, how am I going to replace that income? Some people are sitting around saying, how am I going to increase my income? The one thing is for sure, people are looking at what the media is telling us that inflation is going to be fine, yet we're seeing layoffs up 396% for job cuts. And they're saying, how come we're not being told the truth? So there's a difference between what the White House tells.
So he talking about somebody lying. Somebody ain't telling the truth.
us, what mainstream media tells us versus what you're actually feeling. Trust what you're feeling. These numbers are real. Prices are going up. So you may be saying, Pat, what's the purpose of this video? Is it just to scare us? What do I do about it? Well, there's a few different things you can actually do about it. One, create awareness. Yes. Talk about this. Talk about it amongst your community, your peers, online, social, Twitter. Tag everybody you can. If you say inflation is going lower, why is this going on? Did you see the BLS on the way you're measuring? Why did you do it? Why did we do that? Educate the people around you. The louder you and I, we the people are, eventually they're going to have to pay some attention to what you have to say about it, right? That's number one. Second thing, this is not the time to splurge. It's never the time to splurge, but this is definitely not the time to splurge and not pay attention to what you're doing. Go through your credit card. See some of the old memberships that you have that you're paying for. Why am I paying for this thing? $4.99 a month, $9.99 a month, $18 a month. Cut a lot of that stuff. This is the season to audit all your credit card, your check card, to see exactly where you're wasting money. Audit yourself before the IRS audits your finances. Number three, increase your market value to the best of your ability today. Skills, market value, whatever it may be. Don't just sit there and say, well, you know, it sucks. There's nothing I can do about it. There's a lot you can do about it by increasing market value. And the way you do that is when you bring value to a company you're working at, they're going to have to sit around and say, this guy's very valuable to us. Look what he's doing. He made money for us here, and she made money for us there. Yeah. Without her, we would have never done this. Without him, we'd never done this. The more you're able to do that in the marketplace, your value goes up. So here's my challenge to you at the end. This is a video you ought to watch with your family and have a conversation started. This is like, hey, what do you think about this? Did you know about this? Did you not know about this? Talk about these things together with others. But if you got value from the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I got another video I did.
All right, guys. Man, PBD again came in in the clutch. You know what I'm talking about? But man, to answer this question, did the government change the calculations for the inflation rate? The answer is yes. Here's my reaction to all this, guys. For the debt ceiling situation. I agree with PBD. It could be very catastrophic. Yes, if it's not taken care of. When it comes to the stance for everybody, I do believe on the Republican side is saying we can raise the limit, and they've actually passed a bill saying that we'll raise the limit if we claw back some of the spending. We just saw with Mark Levin that we're spending more than we are bringing in revenue. We got to get that under control. Right, that's severely unhealthy. Number one. Number two, when it comes to the Democratic side, the president and the Senate's gonna have to come in and negotiate, get in. Like I said before, this is going to show. This whole situation was going to show me and everybody else that actually wants to grow in wisdom who are leaders and who are not. Okay, who can negotiate, who cannot. Okay, because you have a time frame of June the 1st, I believe, to what it has to get accomplished. And there's some processes when it comes to getting this done that has to be expedited, right? So get in the room, buy some pizza or some salad if you want to be healthy, a couple beers, you know what I'm talking about, some wine, some water, and you get in there and get everything kind of ironed out. Very simple, guys, all right? All right, when it comes to the 14th Amendment, I agree with Mark Levin here. Is the Constitution is clear. The power of the purse is with the House, which is part of the legislature, not the executive branch, which is the president. The executive branch, which is the president, is in charge of enforcing the laws. But you have the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, NSA. They're under the executive branch because they're in charge of enforcing the laws, right? Period. The president really can't make any laws, but what has happened is a lot of presidents, because to be honest with you, because the Congress hadn't done the job, is doing a lot of EOs, executive orders, or edicts. Those are the same as edicts, all right? Because Congress won't do their damn job, which is the House and the Senate, all right? It's very simple. When it comes to the 14th Amendment, the president does not have the authority to do this at all. This is the reason why President Biden is saying that the challenge that would come in court will slow the process down because he knows he didn't have the authority to do this. But he did come out and say that he's looking at it post the debt ceiling deal of being taken care of, which means he's not looking at the legality of it. He's looking at, okay, this is a timing issue. The timing issue is what he's looking at, not the legality of it. That's bad faith on every level. Sorry, no go there. Right? So, but even if he does that, it will get challenged in the courts. He's still in the same boat. Because why? It's unconstitutional, and as Patrick has talked about, as well as Wall Street Journal talked about, and Mark Levin talked about, there will be a constitutional crisis, and then the Supreme Court has to step in. And the Constitution is clear. It is clear who has the power of the purse, and when the executive branch can do what everybody's trying to do. That's very clear, right? All right. Now, when it comes to did the government manipulate or change the inflationary rates? Yes. Patrick brilliantly broke that thing down. Yes, they did. Why? Because they want to control how you feel, control how you think. It's called spin. That's why I tell everybody, look at the fruits. When someone is telling you a said number, right? Look at the fruits of what's going on around what they're saying. And if what's going on around what they're saying doesn't match what they're actually communicating as being good, question it. It's extremely clear and easy to understand this, right? Now, this is called the Countermove podcast, right? So here's the Countermove. Always say, guys, peep it, sweep it, and then keep that thing, y'all. So what's the peep it? I always start off with this. Examine your current situation. Here's the question I got to ask you guys. Are you getting accurate news reporting? Is the White House and also the Congress, whether it be the Senate or the House, giving you accurate information? Right? You got to answer that question, because a lot of the times sides are spinning. Right? This is when we get to the sweeper side. Are you getting accurate information? Right? You got to examine that. Now, what that means is you are going to have to become an independent expert journalist. Trust, but verify. I would even say do not trust before you verify. It's real simple. That's a part of the sweeping scenario. You have got to stop being so passive and become more active in this and being a journalist, because your family and your community and your city and your county and your state and your country, they're depending on your expertise. If that makes some sense, guys, all right? And then keep it. Start thinking generationally, guys. It's real simple. It's just, does any of this situation position you or provide the correct environment to make your life better? The only person who can answer that question is you. This is the reason why you're going to have to become an independent expert journalist. I'm going to tell you right now, because of inflation, guys, to be honest with you, you're going to have to begin a side hustle. You have to begin a side hustle, because the Congress, whether it be the Senate, House, as well as the executive branch, with these EOs, they're not going to stop spending. No matter the administration, they're not going to stop spending. So the cost of goods, inflation is going to continue to go up, right? That's why the changing of the metrics is to control how you think. If that makes some sense, guys. Begin a side hustle. Right? Begin side hustle. I'm going to do another counter move on what I believe the three industries that you should be looking at to begin a side hustle in. And I'll go deep into detail about those and invite in some experts to talk about that. All right, guys? But guys, give me your thoughts. What do you think about this thing, man? I pray I added some value to you. Okay? All right, guys? So thank you for your time. Now, every Friday at 9 p.m., right? Suni and Mo come out with the great show called Something in the Middle. It's at 8 p.m. CST, 9 p.m. 9 p.m. EST, guys, somewhere in the middle. Grab your boo, you get entertained, you'll learn something as well, guys. Here's a little piece of what they're talking about. Here we go.
Now we're about to get. I went down.
Facts on facts on facts. Hello.
Guys, that is something somewhere in the middle with Suni and Mo, guys. Man, every Friday at 9 p.m. EST, 8 p.m. CST, guys. Come get it in with Suni and Mo. Be entertained, learn a little something, laugh with your boo, or if you're by yourself, guys. But guys, Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I pray I added some value to you. Again, give me your thoughts on all the information that we talked about. Give me your thoughts, guys. Well, you know I end it every single week. Don't get mad at me. Just accept the reality before you leave. And while you can, take that damn picture and give it to your mom and them. Now say it with your chest and with your partner. And holler at your partner, guys. Have a good day, guys. Peace.
Long live the king.